President Trump is escalating his immigration crackdown, vowing to permanently pause migration from what he calls third world countries. It comes after this week's ambush attack on 2 National Guard members just blocks away from the White House, leaving one dead and the other still fighting for his life. The troops stationed in the nation's capital as part of Mr. Trump's federal military deployment. The shooting suspect worked alongside U.S. troops in Afghanistan, then came to the United States after America's chaotic withdrawal in 2021.
What did he do alongside U.S. troops in Afghanistan? He actually was deployed to a CIA unit and would accompany U.S. forces in raiding villages and quite possibly witness the slaughter of civilians by U.S. forces.
Right.
I don't know. That's just some important information, I think, to keep in mind, some context here.
Wow, I'm so surprised that they didn't provide that context on Meet the Press or any of the other shows.
Well, it's a rare oversight.
Yeah, rare oversight, yeah. I mean, this is an example of chickens coming home to roost, as Malcolm X described it. Chicken troops coming home to roost.
Well, it's just a thing where it's like if you invade and occupy a foreign country for 20 years, and by the way, for those who are familiar with the war in Afghanistan, the U.S. kept occupying it and kept escalating, with the so-called surge and so forth, even though they were told by their own top military officials, we have no chance of winning here. This country is just too out of our control. And they kept doubling down because they just didn't want to admit failure. Finally, they admitted failure under Joe Biden and had that chaotic withdrawal. And in the process, they brought back people who had, worked alongside them, like this shooting suspect here. And I don't know exactly what happened with him. We don't know. But the point is, when you invade and occupy foreign countries, not only does it bring horrible things to the foreign country, it also brings bad things at home as well.
Yeah. Well, someone in the comments wrote, in other words, he was with us. And, it's interesting. I've already cited this song, but sometimes songs are so useful, we have to cite them again. It reminds me of that Pink song, What About Us? And this is really applicable here. What about us? What about all the times you said you had the answers? What about us? What about all the broken happy ever afters? What about us? What about all the plans that ended in disaster? What about love? What about trust? What about us?
Well, thanks, Katie, for familiarizing us more with the Pink catalog, which I'm not very familiar with. So
it's a pretty great song.
Always good to hear from Pink. And
Wilson, put that in the album, in the mashup.
Suspect was granted asylum by the Trump administration in April of this year. President Trump is now ordering all green card holders from what his administration has deemed countries of concern to be re-examined.
He went cuckoo. I mean, he went nuts. And that happens, too. It happens too often with these people. You see them. But look, this is how they come in. This is how they're standing on top of each other. And that's an airplane. There was no vetting or anything. They came in unvetted. And we have a lot of others in this country. We're going to get them out. But they go cuckoo. Something happens to them.
I mean, that's kind of an interesting, Trump almost sounds like us. What about us? Don't worry, I won't cite that for the third time. But, they go cuckoo. I wonder what makes them go cuckoo. Either they're cuckoo and we work with them, or, and that's part of the reason we work with them, because it's always useful to have sociopaths on our side. But the other possibility is that they become cuckoo working for us.
Yeah, and whatever happened with him, whatever happened on his journey, I mean, we do know that he was working with the CIA in a unit that conducted night raids, terrorizing innocent civilians. We don't know exactly what he witnessed, what he was there for, but the bottom line is, when you invade foreign countries and occupy them, horrible things happen. And it's called, blowback is the term.
Right.
And it's a term we'd be hearing a lot more about in corporate media if they're willing to just report the basic facts about what happens when you invade and occupy foreign countries. Instead, our invasions and occupations are constantly whitewashed. And I think the coverage of this Afghan national is the latest illustration of that.
I'm sorry. You're welcome, people. Another song comes to mind with the cuckoo reference. This is by the great Magnetic Fields. The song is called Absolutely Cuckoo, and it says, "Don't fall in love with me yet. We've only recently met. True, I'm in love with you, but you might decide I'm a nut. Give me a week or two to go absolutely cuckoo. Then when you see your error, then you can flee in terror." Would have been good advice.
Well, when I hear cuckoo, I just hear I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
That's the obvious cuckoo reference for
Ref.
me. Other people might look to the classic film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but
Right.
I'm more of a cereal-based cultural referencer, so
Yeah.
that's where I'm going with.
I mean, and it's not just because you yourself are part of the 1980s commercial industry as a child star.
Yes, that's right.
What was the product you were?
I was a product called Men of Metal. Yes, we've played the commercial, I think, before on the show. Maybe one day we'll bring it back. But listen, we do have other matters to get to, as important as
Almost as important
as this discussion is. There also is this thing going on where the Washington Post reported on Friday that after one of those Trump administration strikes on boats in the Caribbean, where they claim they're going after cartels, when at worst they're going after like random drug couriers who are bringing drugs over, not even to the U.S. but to like another part of the Caribbean, and we're just assassinating people in the high seas. After one of these strikes, there were 2 survivors clinging to the wreckage of a ship, and the U.S. military went ahead and killed them. And according to the Washington Post, this was done on the direct orders of Pete Hegseth. And now we have an outcry about that. So here's Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Let me ask you about that Washington Post report on the attack on that Venezuelan alleged drug boat. What do you make of what happened there? Do you think there was a war crime committed?
Oh, I think it's very possible there was a war crime committed. Of course, for it to be a war crime, you have to accept the Trump administration's whole construct here.
That we're at war.
Which is we're in armed conflict at war with the drug gangs. Of course, they've never presented the public with the information they've got here. But it could be worse than that, right? If that theory is wrong, then it's plain murder.
The first strike is murder in that case.
That's correct.
You're alleging.
That's correct. Well, I'm saying that it's either murder from the first strike if their whole theory is wrong, and I think the weight of the legal opinion here is that they've concocted this ridiculous legal theory. But even if you accept their legal theory, that it is a war crime, and so I do believe that the Secretary of Defense should be held accountable for giving those kind of orders.
That's right. That's right. And he makes a good point. He makes a good point there. Like, to call this a war crime, you have to accept that we're in a war on random boats, which is fair, and also against drug cartels, which the Trump administration claims the Venezuelan government basically is a giant drug cartel, which of course is a complete lie. But look, maybe we'll start seeing. Is it possible we'll start seeing some congressional pushback on randomly assassinating people on boats just because we claim that they're running drugs to the U.S. even though there's no evidence of that?
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's especially disgusting. The whole thing is disgusting, but doing that to people clinging to a boat who are survivors of an attack is especially disgusting. Because obviously they were not a threat at that point. Not that they were ever a threat, but again, if you're even going to accept the Trump framing, even concede their construction. But also, that's a good point. Muada Garai, right? It can also be called terrorism. That is true. I mean, the range is from a war crime to murder to terrorism.